This that
Red Panda Anthem.
Ian, what's up?
This that Red Panda Anthem.
Red Panda, what's good?
Red Panda Anthem.
Let me ask you this. Microsoft buys a 4% stake in the London Stock Exchange. How will this help the company and stock going forward?
I miss London. We need to go back. We need to get a
Shout out to London, man. Shout out to
yeah.
Tape London. Shout out to everybody out there, man. London's vibes.
We need
You
to
want me to
have
give
time
the breakdown of what the merger means, and then you give your all right. So for those who weren't up on the news, so the partnership involves next generation data and analytics, as well as cloud computing products, according to the statement by the LSEG, which is the London Stock Exchange Group. It includes a new data infrastructure for the London Exchange and analytics modeling solutions with Microsoft Azure, AI, and Microsoft Teams. So pretty much think about Microsoft incorporating their technology into a stock exchange to make it more, word of the day, efficient. Ian Gav.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think every company on earth at some point is going to have to get into the hedge fund business, which is the business of who can provide the highest returns. You don't think, let's say, like I'm watching Robinhood, right? We all are. You don't think Microsoft watch the craze of Robinhood and the GameStop craziness and FTX and didn't say, if we come in and provide a safe platform with cybersecurity and our global reach, we can probably take over this market. Let me ask you right now, who would you rather invest in, Microsoft's platform or TD Ameritrade? I love TD Ameritrade, but if Microsoft had a Thinkorswim, I would be there. FT, and you don't think they're looking at this crypto space and then calling all their lobbying friends and say, hey, why don't you put a call in and see if we can legitimize and leverage this crypto space, but with our trust and international backing, plus with lobbying, plus with government and safety. Now that's another market they could tap into easily. I think this is just the beginning of a bunch of investments that they will make in the financial space to ultimately build a robust financial product, because the number one market in the world is the money market. I'm surprised they haven't moved there prior to. So if Apple's hiring crypto developers and all this stuff on the back end, working on that project, and Tim Cook is being slightly petty to upset Elon because they could have launched this initiative as well. Microsoft is very quiet. Write this down. One of the fundamentals that I look for in a CEO of any company is, in aggregate, how many times will they speak publicly versus their competitive CEO? I like a very quiet, calm, humble CEO. If they are from an Indian background, even better, because culturally things are done better there. But I think we're going to see a hard push, just what Apple did with healthcare and Amazon did with healthcare. And they've tested some things with this credit card and a couple other products. In 4 or 5 years, you're going to see Microsoft make a heavy push into the financial space. And with all this crypto contagion blowing up and Tether leaning on and hanging on by a thread, it's going to be a great push. And I think this is just a test at scale. Like, I'm going to be honest, them testing this with the London Stock Exchange was my episode 70. I just needed proof of concept. Cool. Now, the platform is going to be Market Mondays for them. And when they come out with the platform in a couple of years, it is going to be game, set, match. But what are your thoughts? Is there any competitor that can take down Microsoft in the financial space? Shah Ponder, he's like, that boy good. Got some sleep.
Of course, Microsoft is a giant. Sure. So it's going to be interesting to see. You always have to give advantages to companies that do things full time. Like, I like Apple as far as going into the car space, but I wouldn't count out Tesla because Tesla's been doing this, right? Okay. And it's a side meal for Apple. It's not their main course. So I'm always gonna be partial to companies that actually do it full time. So Microsoft isn't a full time financial company. They're definitely gonna be formidable in the space. But you still have to look at of course, the JP Morgans of the world, the Fidelities of the world, these are companies that are not as big as Microsoft, but this is what they do full time. This is their full time attention and their full time focus.
Yep.
And then it'll be interesting to see what other tech companies want to get into the financial space. Apple, they get into everything. So I imagine that they would have at some point they will have a strong push into the financial services industry. I don't see why they wouldn't. It goes hand in hand with a lot of other stuff that they do anyway. It'll be interesting to see Google. I think Google is a company that, I could definitely see making a strong push into the financial services industry. So I think the financial services industry is going to be, changed over the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Question?
Question for the sake of not interrupting. I want to recall a conversation we had maybe a year and a half ago. You called me and like, yo, I'm tired of insert person. I'm going to go make this move at insert partnership, right?
insert.
And I was like, wow, really? He like, yeah, I'm tired of helping people and them taking it for granted and not appreciating. Let me just blow it out of the water. You don't think that Microsoft, and they're blown out of the water. I'm in a good space, so I'm not going to say that. But you don't think at some point Microsoft or Apple will have the same feeling? Because and it's a good lesson for people to learn, you cannot force a wartime strategy with a team that you cannot beat. So if Microsoft gets upset enough, like you said, even the car project is a side project. If you are a fan of Apple, EV was not even on a top 15 considerations 3 years ago until Elon had his commentary. And then blocking Meta was not an issue for the App Store until Zuckerberg said what he said about Tim Cook. So sometimes strategically, ego gets in the way. If you ever seen Succession of Billions, and we're all human, sometimes we want revenge. And they may not be able to beat the JP Morgan, but I think they can take down a Robin Hood.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, so the thing about it is, because I used to work in the financial services industry. So one thing that I know for sure is that the technology is not where it needs to be. And it's behind as far as there's still way too much physical paperwork. There's still way too much, there's a lot more room. Like, don't get me wrong. Technology is obviously, plays a big part in financial services, obviously, right? From, trading computers and different things of that nature. But there's still a lot more room, especially when you start thinking about artificial intelligence and, all of this new technology that's coming that's not even out yet. I feel like financial services industry still has a long way to go as far as, catching up to the tech industry. So it's a perfect marriage between financial services and tech. Perfect, especially on the blockchain. And that's what really, the blockchain, I think, is really going to be interesting to see how that plays in financial services, because it's like, so to give you an example, life insurance, right? If you're trying to buy life insurance, what happens is that you go through an underwriting process. And a lot of times, if you have like a medical issue, or if you just went to the doctor or something like that, then they have to send out for your doctor records. Now the doctors, this is still a manual process, and it could take as quick as a couple of days. It could take as long as a couple of months. It really just depends on how efficient the doctor's office is, because the doctor's office has to actually get the records, like physical records. Then they have to actually email the records. Sometimes they even fax, which is crazy. They still actually fax records. Like doctor's offices, they actually need technology more than anybody. So it's like, imagine if all of your medical records are on the blockchain. Once the insurance company asks for it, it's sent within a matter of seconds, and an underwriter, and not a human underwriter, because humans have objections. No matter how, you still have some level of bias, you have some level of objection. Imagine if it was artificial intelligence that was an underwriter, and they just get the data. All they see is numbers, and they can give an approval right now, yes or no. So imagine that you can get approved for life insurance on the spot within 5 minutes. Like, I've seen policies take 8 months to get approved, because you got to go back and forth. You got to get the doctor. You got to talk to the underwriter. You got to explain to the underwriter why yeah, he has diabetes, but it's coming down. It's like, you know, it's still a personable business. Imagine if all of that was taken away. Imagine how much money that would save. Imagine how more efficient that would be. Of course, there's going to be issues because there's no more human element to it. But I could definitely see that. I'm just using that as one example. There's a million different examples. But imagine if you could just apply for life insurance and then within 10 minutes, you know exactly if you got the policy, how much it's going to cost, what you got rated at. That's a game changer for the whole entire industry.
Sounds like a way more efficient way to do business. Right, that's the common theme, and I want to give the analogy, but I want them to see the episode of how he explains how business works in that efficient manner. But when you're talking about, especially with the London Stock Exchange, do you want to become one of the most global recognized marketplaces? Yeah. What do? You make a partnership with the best managed, and this is Wall Street Journal, the best managed company of 2022 was Microsoft, right?
Hold on. Say it again.
The number one, the best managed company in 2022 is Microsoft, right? So you get with them. Now you obviously are going to create infrastructure that is going to be premier. But what also you've done is now you've created a contract for a company, right? So when we're talking about the cloud and AI segment, they've made a commitment to spend $3 billion to build infrastructure. Just on that alone, right? So now when you think about the LSH, you've seen even in today, their stock is going up just on the thought of this collaboration happening. But it's going to be more efficient for everybody, right? It helps them on a global scale. It makes them legitimize, you know, their efforts even more so when they get with a company like this. So, I mean, I'm excited for them.
Microsoft stock,
bullish, always bullish.
Always.
Hey, did you know who they bought the 4% from? The 4% stake?
Who?
You might have heard of the company, BlackRock.
Well played.
Well, at some point, we got to have a conversation about the guy that just is buying the stock exchanges that was dead broke 5 years ago.
Serious conversation.
That was a real conversation.
That's another conversation.
Who owns the New York Stock Exchange?
Who owns? Do your Google searches on that.
Yeah,
right now.
Do your Google searches on who owns the New York Stock Exchange. Yep. Your Google searches of where he appeared from magically.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Shout out to Peter. Shout out to Peter on that, man. he enlightened us. He gave us education.
Even with Sam, there's a few people in the crypto space who popped up out of nowhere. When you look at the crypto.com CEO, he's had a history of bad exits and bankruptcy, but there's a few people who have popped up out of nowhere and bought some brokerages with no money to their name. How, Sway? For those you don't know, it costs hundreds of millions minimum to acquire a mid-sized brokerage, let alone some of the biggest. But I want to stay on air.
But think about that language, though. Like, think about the language. I'm sure there's people sitting here right now that didn't even know that was a possibility, that you could buy an exchange, right? So, like, once we see the possibility, like, that's even a thing, that opens the eyes to educate yourself now in that space.
The great thing is, just had an idea. Like, yo, I want to start buying stock exchanges.
And if I can make them more efficient,
just
market
purchase the New York Stock Exchange.
Create infrastructure.
Yep.
Mergers and acquisitions.
Well played.
Well played.
And that's why I say you only get one life. And for branding purposes, people may only know you for 3 things throughout the course of your life. You have to pick those 3 very carefully. But this is why when you have conversations like a Robert Smith or Dave Rubenstein, like, you have to level up your thinking, your level of execution, and level of automation. Because these opportunities, like, and I'll say this now, for those of you trying to get rich and get the bag and get a real bag, not just a bag so you can go smash whoever you want to in Atlanta that got their body butt, you know.
ATL.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
Atlanta like
that. I mean, it's not happening in Albuquerque. Well, a little bit. Anyway, now over these next 3 or 4 years, you're going to have some opportunities to have the conversations. Trust me, if we was in a bull market, I wouldn't be on the exchange as much. There would be no need for me there. If we were in a bull market, trust me, I would be kicked out of Meta like Jazzy Jeff used to get thrown out by Uncle Phil. But in a down market, you have to quintuple your efforts to get these deals done because people are now open to them. But yeah, to even buy an exchange with a thought of, come on, man.
This that Red Panda Anthem.
Ian, what's up?
This that Red Panda Anthem.
Red Panda, what's good?
Red